Hi and welcome or welcome back to the channel. I'm Jen
And I'm Andy.
and we've got Milo behind the camera. We're inspired by the journey, and in this video we're going to share with you our experience of cruising on the MSC Yacht Club on Preziosa. We're going to include everything we loved and the few things that we didn't love so much. So keep watching until the end to find out what we did on this cruise that we wish we'd done on previous MSC cruises. On this cruise we were working until about lunchtime, so we didn't get to Southampton until 2 p.m. When we arrived, we headed straight for the Yacht Club bag drop, and they were more than ready to help us and really quick and friendly at taking our bag, and one of the shoreside crew escorted us into the terminal. We were whizzed through security. I've never been through security so quickly. And before we knew it, we were sitting in the dedicated Yacht Club area for check-in with a glass of Prosecco, an orange juice for Milo, and of course the much wanted packet of Pringles.
Yeah, it was really good, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So this time, because we were a bit later, we only really had time to finish our drinks, and then we were taken straight down to board the ship. On our previous cruises, we went to the top sail lounge, but because we were later today, the butler suggested that we took our bags to the cabin and then went straight up to the restaurant for lunch because it was nearly time for finishing lunch. So that's what we did. And I think being able to eat a sit-down lunch on embarkation day is always my favourite way to start a cruise. It's just so much more civilised than eating the buffet. Mind you, because passengers were embarking and disembarking at every port, it didn't make it quite so hectic as when everyone is getting on the same day.
Yeah. We had a Grand Deluxe suite on this cruise, and we were really well looked after by our butler and the junior butler. We've made a separate video with a tour of the cabin, so don't forget to check that one out too.
Yeah, I finished that one a few days ago, so definitely check that one out. It'll be really interesting.
So the food, always an important part of a cruise. We ate all of our evening meals in the Yacht Club dining room. The service there was genuinely really good. We never had to wait long for anything, really. Sometimes when we arrived, there was a couple of minutes wait for a table, but that's probably because we were needing a table for three and at the busiest times of the evening.
They were always really apologetic as well, weren't they? And we just say, oh, it doesn't matter, like we don't mind waiting at all.
No, and it was never more than a couple of minutes,
Exactly.
so it's not like we were waiting for long at all. On the whole, the food was really good, and we never failed to find something on the menu that we were looking forward to eat that evening.
Yeah, definitely.
As you'd expect, the waiters were really happy to accommodate any sensible requests. We didn't make any outrageous ones, so not sure about that. But our sensible requests they were quite happy with. So on one night, Andy didn't fancy any of the starters, but there was a pasta dish that looked really tasty and sounded really good. So you just asked for a small portion of that, didn't you? And that was
I mean,
really
obviously they would have happily brought you a full portion, but we just absolutely hate wasting food. So I just would rather say, please, can we have a small portion? And that, it came. It was absolutely no problem at all.
And on another occasion, I ordered two starters rather than a starter and a main, and they made that work really well as well. It was also fine if you wanted to add a side dish. On a couple of occasions, we asked for a side of chips to go with our meal. And once we'd done that once or twice, they always offered them before we'd even had a chance to ask. So 10 out of 10 for service there.
We normally share them as well, wasn't it? We're not just totally greedy. But one of the things I did really like about the food was that the portion sizes are not too large. I always think like it's much better to have a smaller portion and then be able to go and grab a snack or something later than to have an overwhelmingly big plate of food. It's not like you're ever going to go hungry on a cruise.
And there were some really good evening snacks in the top cell lounge, so it was worth having a little bit of space for them.
Yeah, definitely.
One of the other things that we thought was really great, and I thought was really great, was that they always took Milo's order first and made sure it was in the kitchen before they took our orders. And as a parent, that's just something that's really helpful. It means that you can have a bit more of a relaxing meal, and it was always really good for them to do that. We thought that the kids' menu was excellent.
Yeah, it really was, wasn't it?
Yeah, we were really surprised that they had a different menu each day. They were all themed. There was a space theme menu and a cowboy theme menu, an animal theme menu, all different themes that they sort of played a bit on in some of the wording of the dishes and how they were decorated. One thing that Milo did find that was quite funny on the kids' menu was that quite often things like the desserts, especially the jelly options, they seem to be a day or two out with the flavours. So on the menu, it would say lime jelly, and then when it arrived, it would be strawberry.
Like he wasn't fussy about what flavour it was.
And then a day later, he'd order strawberry, and it would be the lime from the night before. And it sort of was like they were a day or two behind. And I guess that's one of the challenges with having a kids menu that
Yeah.
changes each day.
Yeah, I think so.
The other thing with Milo's food was that they were more than happy for him to order from the main menu, which he really enjoyed. He enjoyed having the same options as the grown-ups as well as his kids menu, and he absolutely loved the filet mignon. Other things as well, but that was the hit for him.
Yeah, and that was good because then he got to share some of it with us because it was too big. So yeah, he definitely enjoyed that.
I think he'd have eaten most of it given half a chance.
Yeah, probably. So talking a little bit about the restaurant location. So this was one of our very few niggles about our cruising yacht club on Preziosa. So on Meraviglia class ships such as MSC Virtuosa, the yacht club restaurant is up the stairs from the top sail lounge. And it's so handy to get up and to get back from. You also get stunning views over the bow of the ship. On Fantastica class ships like Preziosa, the restaurant is located at the aft of the ship and overlooks the aft swimming pool and the open deck.
And this isn't a huge problem, it's a preference thing. But for us, and we did find it a bit of a faff, you had to go down from deck 15 to deck 7, either by the elevators or stairs, depending on how energetic or lazy you were feeling by that point of the day. And then across deck 7, which was always really busy because it was always at a time after when the shows had just finished or there were lots of people in the bars and entertainment going on in different places. To get to the other end of the ship, to go back up to deck 15. Often the lifts don't go all the way up to deck 15, so it just made it a bit of a faff. We think that you can cut through on deck 14, but we were sailing in February and it was rather cold, so we didn't fancy that every evening to brave the cold when we wanted to go for a meal.
So like I say, it's a personal preference thing, not a huge deal, but yeah, I preferred it on the layout on the other ships. So room service, we ordered room service quite a few times and it was quick and good quality whenever it came. Often on a cruise we would have a room service breakfast on a port day, just as a kind of quicker way of getting out of the cabin. But this time we didn't bother as we were so close to the top sail lounge, and when you went there you could get a really nice selection of small breakfast treats, as well as an amazing cup of coffee. So yeah, that was definitely our preference on this cruise.
The coffee was really good and the selection of breads was really nice too.
Yeah, definitely.
We found that the pizza in the room service was consistently excellent. It was so nice to be able to order something hot when we got back after a day in port. Quite often we were getting back at 3 or 4 in the afternoon. Somehow Milo had managed to survive since breakfast without snacks, or without many snacks. So we were all rather hungry by then, and a pizza was just perfect at that moment. I think they're possibly one of the best pizzas at sea, but maybe not. They're close.
It's a personal thing, isn't it? I think Princess still has it just about for me.
They were certainly a lot better than the pizzas we had in the buffet on the same cruise, but we'll talk a bit more about the buffet later.
Yeah, we did also order drinks with our room service. I didn't realise that I could do that on the first cruise in Yacht Club that I did, but we found that in general, it was easier just to go to the top sail lounge and get the drinks ourselves. Sometimes the butlers would insist in helping us back to the room with them, even when we were quite happy to carry them ourselves.
They were very keen to help, weren't they?
Definitely.
Very friendly, and we weren't that far away, but I can certainly see how it would be useful at times.
Yeah, definitely.
One thing I remember from other MSC cruises is that they are quite particular about their glasses and don't like their glasses going to different places. So we made sure that if we had glasses and drinks from the top sail lounge, that we took our glasses back there at the end. It just seemed to be a whole lot easier.
Yeah, and when we got drinks to take down to the theatre, I would always say to them, "Oh, please could I have a glass of wine to go down to the theatre?" And then they would give you a glass that they were happy not to come back to Yacht Club. So yeah, it was just something that we figured out.
And it just makes it a bit easier for them as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So as we've mentioned a bit already, we really enjoyed our breakfast in the top sail lounge. It was so convenient to get there, and the breakfast was full of goodies served until 11, whereas in the restaurant for the Yacht Club, it stopped at 9:30, which was a bit early for us on holiday and with getting out of the cabin with Milo. You could get a selection of cereals, pastries, and as I mentioned earlier, a lovely selection of breads. They also had other dishes that rotated, like smoked salmon and herring and all sorts of yummy bits like that as well. And it was so nice to be able to get a good cup of coffee with breakfast. We also took full advantage of the panoramic views.
Yeah, there's amazing views from top sail, isn't there? Like on every ship that I've been in, the views are absolutely amazing.
Great way to have a sneaky peek at the port you were in that day as well, whilst you were eating breakfast and
Yeah, definitely.
planning what you were doing.
Definitely. So should we talk a bit more about the top sail lounge? So I thought the Top Sail Lounge was absolutely fabulous. It had lots of comfy seating and plenty of tables either to eat or to sit and play games at. On our cruise, it was never too busy to find a good table. Service in the Top Sail Lounge was always excellent. And although they were super busy, the butlers would always take the time to ask kind of how we are and to have a bit of a chat, which was really nice.
Yeah, they were really friendly, weren't
So
they?
friendly.
And they'd stop and talk to Milo, ask him what he was doing, and they would ask us about our day. And they just were really happy to talk, and it was just a really nice atmosphere, wasn't it, in there?
Yeah, and I think the other thing was that it was always easy to find a table. So if you were trying to find a table a little bit away from people and being conscious of kind of being with children as well, we always managed to do that. And yeah, so that wasn't a problem at all.
Always found a table big enough to spill out a packet of Lego
Yeah, definitely.
or to play a game.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the drinks. So I guess in the bars and also in the cabin. So I would say on this cruise, we only really got drinks from the Top Sail Lounge, the restaurant, and from room service. I mostly stuck to my favourite Grey Goose Martini or an after dinner Hennessy VSOP, which I really enjoyed every night.
And I worked my way through all the different specialty gins. They had a great selection of gin and tonics there, some that I'd not seen before and some that I know I like. Couldn't manage to decide which was my favourite though, because they were all very good. We also had a mini bar in our room, which we could use, being restocked as part of the yacht club deal. We mainly used that for soft drinks, but it was really nice to have that included in the price.
Yeah, I think we had a beer a couple of times as well, didn't we? When we were just kind of had our feet up when we got back to the cabin.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely nice to have that included, I think. And they, like you say, they were happy to swap things out. Milo found that he really liked was it the peach iced tea that he liked? So they just made sure that there was always plenty of that in there as well. So yeah, that was really nice.
And I have heard other people saying about asking them to have glasses of wine in the fridge at certain times of the day, and that's worked well for them.
Yeah.
It's not something we tried.
Recently, I've seen a few people saying that they haven't been offered the free bottle of spirits that you get when you're in yacht club. We certainly were, and I chose a bottle of Tanqueray gin. To be honest, we took the gin home with us because we didn't really need any more alcohol. There's always something quite nice, though, about enjoying something from the ship when you're at home and miserable that the holiday's over. So I definitely enjoyed that first gin and tonic from that bottle.
Yeah, it was nice to have that little reminder.
Yeah, definitely. So thinking a bit about the pool deck areas. So with this being a cold weather cruise in February, we didn't get too much use of the pool area. I'd say it's an absolutely beautiful area with lots of protection from the elements. And I think if we hadn't been travelling with Milo, we would have got more use from the one pool deck.
Yeah, I think he didn't like the cold too much and that stopped us using it as much as we might.
Yeah, which was a real shame because the pool was kept at an absolutely perfect temperature. We both went in and we were in for quite a while, but we couldn't coax him in, could we?
Yeah, so the pool was a really good temperature. And there were a couple of hot tubs as well. We did manage to coax Milo into the hot tubs. And there was no real issue with them being overcrowded or too busy or anything like that. And the service was brilliant up there. Considering it was not many people out on deck, they were always there as soon as you came to see if you wanted a drink. And we did, on a couple of occasions, make the most of that and get hot chocolate to warm up after our swim because it was a little chilly getting out.
Yeah, and I think it definitely, like as an area on my Virtuosa cruise, I definitely went up there quite a lot and it was nice to sit there in the sun, but this time it was just a little bit too chilly and they didn't quite seem to have as much open either as well, I think, because it was so cold. So yeah, just worth bearing that in mind really if you're doing a cold weather cruise.
I mean, there was ice on deck one day at about 3 in the afternoon, so it certainly wasn't warm. So there were a few events whilst we were on board that we were invited to. There was an afternoon tea and there was a senior officers get together. Both of these took place during the week we were on board and they were in the Top Sail Lounge. We didn't actually get to the officers get together because it clashed with something else we were doing.
The afternoon tea was amazing though, wasn't it? Whenever we've been on cruises before, we've never really taken afternoon tea as there's always so much food that we haven't been hungry enough. This time, however, we were more organised and went with empty tummies.
It's a good job we did.
Yeah.
There was a really nice selection of sandwiches, cakes and scones that were presented beautifully on the table, and then also a huge selection of loose leaf tea. I've not seen a tea trolley quite like that.
Impressive.
Once we picked our teas, that was set on the table with a timer so we could decide how strong we wanted our teas. Maybe because we don't have afternoon tea that often, but it's not something I'd seen before.
No, I'd never seen that either.
But it was a really nice touch, and actually it made for a good cup of tea, so there's a lot to be said for it. And there were a couple of musicians were performing whilst we were in the lounge. It was just a really nice atmosphere,
Yeah,
wasn't
it was so nice. And I think when I was on Virtuosa, I think you could have afternoon tea every day. It didn't quite seem to be the case on Preziosa, but I think what was really nice was that it meant that almost everyone did go down for the afternoon tea, and the atmosphere was just really, really nice. I suspect that you could have asked for afternoon tea in Yacht Club every day, and there was always a good selection of afternoon treats anyhow. So yeah, I don't think that it really mattered.
As you'd expect, the standard of service was excellent within the Yacht Club. Whether that was the concierge always taking the time to say hello, or the crew members who were helping to keep the top sail lounge absolutely
Yeah, it was
spotless.
spotless.
They were all working to such a high standard.
Yeah, definitely. And in the restaurant, we were always really well served, and our cabin steward kept everything in good order, so no complaints about the service at all. We got the usual selection of treats at turn down, and I still think putting a bottle of water and a glass by the side of the bed is just such a nice touch. Although sometimes Milo didn't get a turn down chocolate, he did always make a grab for the sweet treats. The first night, he had his own box of cookies and a chocolate name label. That was because it was Valentine's Day, wasn't it, that first night? So yeah, they had some extra special things.
And it was really nice. He
so
really
nice.
Appreciated it, and I think he liked having his own little box of cookies.
Yeah, definitely. I didn't get a box of cookies.
No, you got a Valentine's Day cake.
That is true. And I did eat it all, even though I didn't really need any more food.
So this cruise was during the British half term, and as we mentioned earlier, we boarded at Southampton. So as you might imagine, there were a lot of children on board. Within Yacht Club, there were a fair few children, but definitely not as many, and they were all really well behaved. So you hardly noticed that there were lots of them there. I'd certainly have no hesitation in booking another Yacht Club cruise as a family. It was something that I was slightly concerned about before.
Yeah, me too, actually. Yeah.
But it worked really well.
Yeah, and I think, as I mentioned before, I thought it was really great that the menu varied from day to day, and Milo loved being able to order the kids' mocktail of the day, or sometimes he would ask for the mocktail of the day, and one of the butlers would ask him about what kind of things he particularly wanted, and they would make a special mocktail up just for him. They never minded making anything for his taste, particularly because he doesn't like fizzy drinks, does he? So it's a couple of times he had them fizzy, but once they got that sorted, he really enjoyed them.
Yeah, he really did enjoy that.
Yeah, definitely.
One thing that Milo didn't enjoy so much, or didn't try to see if he would enjoy it, was the kids club. Normally Milo's quite a fan of the kids club, but we could not convince him to go to the kids club on this cruise, which we think was probably because he didn't get the opportunity to have a look round beforehand.
Yeah, I think so.
Generally on cruises that we've been on before, on embarkation day, there's a kids club registration.
It's like an open house, isn't it? Like you can just go and look round.
And you go and register, you have a look around. So Milo knows we know where he is. He's had a chance to look around before it's really busy. And that just doesn't happen on a cruise where people are disembarking and embarking on each port. So it's something that we tried. We did go up and have a look one day, but it was really busy and chaotic just outside. Yeah. So I think that sealed the deal, that he wasn't going to the kids club that holiday.
What Milo really did enjoy, though, was going to the theatre, and we went almost every night. I think MSC is well known for its slightly random entertainment, and the shows didn't really have a story as such, but what we did really like was that they were only 35 minutes in length, and they were at 7:15 and 9 o'clock, so we normally went to the earlier performance and then headed to dinner straight after that. In previous cruises, we haven't been to many shows. The first night, when we went to the theatre, I went to get a drink from the bar nearest to the theatre, and it was a very long wait. So for the rest of the cruise, what we do is order a drink in the top sail lounge, normally a glass of Sauvignon Blanc, and we take it with us. We would always tell them that we were going to take it down to the theatre, and they would give us one of their special glasses that they didn't mind not getting back into the top sail lounge.
Or the not so special glasses, as the case was.
Yeah. So thinking about activities, now, for the duration of this cruise, the water slides and the aqua park were closed, much to Milo's disappointment. I'm going to see if I can check them out when I'm on board Preziosa later in March. But I think it was just because it was so cold.
I think so. It was exceptionally cold, and I think actually in reality Milo probably wouldn't have wanted to go on them. But...
Or he might have gone on them once and then never gone on them ever again.
Yeah. One thing that Milo and I did do whilst we were on board was we went to one of the art classes. As you'd expect, it was really busy. It was really, really busy. And we only just managed to get a seat despite being there early. It wasn't the best art activity we've done on board a ship, and there were a few art supplies and templates shared, a little bit of instruction, and then we were left to our own devices, really. Overall, it was worth going to, but just wasn't the best.
So thinking about the rest of the ship outside of the yacht club, the ship itself is beautiful, and that's one thing you can always say for any of the MSC ships we've been on. There always seemed to be some live music on as well, and other activities such as trivia, etc., the old usual cruise favourites.
Yeah, definitely. And like you say, it was stunning, and
Yeah,
some very shiny staircases.
many shiny staircases.
So one of the things we really liked about our cabin, or the situation of our cabin, was that it made it really easy to access the indoor pool, which we used on a few occasions. It was busy, as you'd expect for a cold weather cruise, but it did get a lot quieter in the evenings, so that was a great time to go.
The outdoor pools were very chilly, so we didn't make any use of them at all in the main areas. Like we said, we did use the yacht club one a few times, which was definitely a lot warmer, but still not warm enough for Milo, although perfect for us.
Another area that we didn't use on this occasion was the casino. They allow smoking in the casino, and that's something that we don't like so much. So we didn't spend any time in the casino on this cruise.
We did try the main buffet one day when we fancied a slice of pizza. We started talking about it a little bit earlier, but I'm not sure if it was just an off day, but the base of the pizza was really soggy and not enjoyable at all. I've got a feeling that it was just an off day because the pizza that we got from room service was amazing, and the pizza that we've always had on MSC before was also really good. So yeah, maybe it was just an off day, but that was our one foray into the main buffet.
It didn't make us want to go back, did it?
Not especially.
When you could get such good food elsewhere,
Yeah, exactly.
It didn't seem worth it. When we went to the buffet, it wasn't actually as busy as we'd expected it to be, and we know that buffets can get busy, especially at meal times on sea days, but this was okay, and it was quite easy to find a seat, especially if you headed towards the rear of the buffet area. It just wasn't as calm as the other lunches we'd had on board.
One of the things on Preziosa that I feel like was different to more modern ships is that they didn't actually have hand washing stations as you went into the buffet and restaurants. There were people with the alcohol hand gel, but there was no hand washing, and I think that's just something, like I say, on the newer ships now you really kind of notice that, even though a lot of people don't use it when they should do, but it wasn't on Preziosa.
Yeah, it's interesting the things that you notice now.
So thinking about kind of butler and I guess the concierge, so on my first cruise in Yacht Club, and I actually went on my own, I don't think that I really took advantage of all the things the butler could do for you. I also think sometimes you have to just try things to see if they're actually a real benefit. And there's also something almost like a little bit embarrassing about having a butler, and what do you do with your butler? So just as an example, so on this cruise, we did get our butler to take us down to the theatre, but actually, as it was a private area reserved for Yacht Club, we didn't feel like that was particularly necessary, so we didn't do that one again.
No, it was tried it, and actually
it was helpful because they showed us exactly where we needed to go, but once we'd done it once, that was fine.
Yeah, like you say, helpful for the first night, but then we didn't feel it was needed after that. One thing that we did use our butler for a lot of the times was getting off the ship in port. When Andy went on the cruise before, I don't think he really understood the benefit of that, but we thought we'd give it a go. And I think we proved that it was a good thing. So the butler would take us off really quickly and to whatever gangway was best on the day. Sometimes that meant that we went through the crew area.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Just briefly to get to the crew gangway because they knew it would be quicker. So it really did save a lot of time getting off the ship. They also seemed to know a good way to navigate through the ship to get to the right place as well.
So thinking about the cruise overall, this really was an excellent cruise. We thoroughly enjoyed it. We had a great time at all the ports, and you'll be able to check out those videos pretty soon.
Yeah, definitely have a look at those. We had some great adventures in different places. We tried some things that we had in mind that we were going to do and some unexpected last-minute plans, so they were all really good. I think that the Yacht Club overall was a really solid product, and it's one of those things, you get what you pay for. I'd go back. I think we both have no hesitation booking the Yacht Club again for the right deal, which is great because it's really changed our minds on MSC. So it was a really good opportunity to go. I think what we'd try and do, if we could, was to find one of the elusive inside cabins.
Yeah, I agree.
In the Yacht Club. They're not many and they're hard to come by, but I think for us as a family, that would really suit us well. I think we found that overall, while the cabin was good, that the facilities and the service were really what sold it for us.
Yeah, that's what I've always thought. When we've looked at Suite before, I've always thought for me it's less about the room and more about kind of all the things that come with the suite, really. So yeah, but if we could find an inside cabin on one, we would definitely do it. And again, like particularly on a port intensive cruise as well, where you're not going to spend very long in a cabin. So yeah, I think that would be the main thing, really. So we hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed it and you want to see more of our adventures, then please do subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell. It really does help us out. And if you can give this video a big like too, that would be absolutely awesome.
Until the next adventure, see you soon.
See you soon.